Well, we've got breaking news. Anthony Weiner, they've just announced, is set to be sentenced for the sexting to a 15-year-old girl. We're one of the first groups to break that intel. And now the 15-year-old girl has done a TV interview that is set to be aired today. We have a snippet of that we're going to be playing. It's up on newswars.com and infowars.com. Leanne McAdoo is riding shotgun with us for much of this hour, and we'll be taking phone calls from folks that have been holding, like Carlos and Anthony and Mark and Jacob and others. Leanne McAdoo, again, joins us from the west coast of Florida, from an undisclosed location, and she is there reporting on what's happening. We have Quentin Carter that's on the southern east coast down there close to Miami, and we have a bunch of Snapchat videos that we've been garnering from Florida, but also from other areas in the Caribbean where there's been massive devastation. But already in Miami, days away from it hitting, the winds are kicking up. The storm's still close to 180 miles an hour, but it's in between southern Cuba now and islands to the north, but is set to graze the north-central area of Cuba with the really dangerous high winds. Now, again, a lot of folks know I don't normally hype up hurricanes because we've never seen one that's going 185 miles an hour. Most meteorologists, not just mainstream media ones, are saying there's a very good chance if this thing hits Florida at even 120 miles an hour and goes up the center of the state, it is going to really be bad news. And it's because of the astrophysics of the sun involved in all these mass coronal injections right now that we know drives, not just the heat of the sun driving hurricanes, but also the ionization coming in that forms the nuclei that allows water vapor to condense into droplets. This is not a theory. This is known by all meteorologists, astrophysicists, but for some reason it's never discussed unless you get into academic areas. So Miami is a ghost town. The sea is still very, very calm there. We're showing you some Snapchats of this. And then as Leanne talks and as we take your calls, we'll show you some of the carnage in islands that they're calling uninhabitable from the eastern Mediterranean. Meanwhile, the media, as Paul Watson reported earlier, has been celebrating that Trump's beach house got hit on one of these islands and destroyed. Even though the island's 91% black, they're trying to make it all racial. I have pointed out that with Houston and Harvey, we saw incredible humanity coming together, a.k.a. Martin Luther King. Beautiful. Black saving whites, vice versa. Hispanic saving whites, vice versa. Just everybody saving everybody. Just humans with red blood. That's why Raw Story ran stories, as well as the Washington Post and others, that I pushed it was a race war and there was no unity and that blacks are evil. They don't have any quotes, though. They don't have any video of myself or Tucker Carlson saying this. We're saying great unity, love, come together. That's all we've been saying. We've been saying there's been some racist black folks on Twitter, but along with Democrats like this, Hollywood star saying God did it to us because we, deserve it. She's a white lady, Jennifer Lawrence, shameful. But we have been the ones saying incredible unity. So how are they going to counter us? They're just saying that we say there's no unity. So, Leanne, I tell you, you're there in Florida. Do you think we're overhyping this, as Rush Limbaugh is saying? I'm not bashing Rush. I hope he's right, because a lot of times there's a hurricane going 130 miles an hour out in the Atlantic, and they say, oh, it's all over. Well, yeah, if it hit going 130, but it usually slows down to 50, 60. This is 185, never before seen, with an earthquake, the biggest earthquake ever hit in Mexico. Clearly, it's the sun firing all those ions into the earth, bouncing off the nickel core. That's what real science shows. What do you think?
Well, also, we just had a really massive solar flare the other day as well. So I knew something big was going to come. I think you're kind of right over the target there with that. Hopefully they're right. Hopefully this hurricane will take a sharp turn to the right at the last minute and everything will be saved. But the fact is, this hurricane is just traveling at really high rate of speed, and it's not taking the usual course where it'll get slowed down a little bit when it goes over Cuba or some of these other islands that have really high mountain ranges that are able to kind of slow the storms down. It's just traveling right through the open water and kind of skirting those islands. So if this does hit Florida, I mean, this is going to have devastating impact if there's a direct hit there in Miami and South Florida. Actually, as I was waiting to come on the air, someone's been banging on my door. So I've just been told that we have a mandatory evacuation here in the complex where I live. So I've got to get off, with you. Get off the show with you and get all my stuff boarded up and get out of here, and then head to my mom's and get all of her house boarded up. We live near the water. My mom lives on a barrier island. And so, we've got to go because the most dangerous part of the hurricane, really, obviously, yes, it can flatten buildings and just level towns with these devastating winds. But the storm surge is what's going to be really the most dangerous. People saw with the flooding there with Harvey, what that looked like. And Florida, whenever there's a hurricane, really what people are the most afraid of are the storm surges here. And they're expecting 10, 12-foot storm surges. So here we might be seeing 3 or 4-foot storm surges. My mom lives on an island. The last time we had a bad hurricane here, the water was up above my knees in the entire village. So, this is water just in people's homes. It's pretty impressive to think what could possibly happen here, this weekend. And I've got to worry now about my uncle who is hunkering down right there in West Palm Beach. So it's
and Quentin Carter is over in that similar area as well. Leanne, I'm going to let you go then soon so you can do that. But they've got different storm tracks. Some show it going to the east, some going right up the state. Others more and more showing it going up the west side, and you're up there halfway up on the west side. Many areas are ghost towns in Miami, Southern Florida, the Keys. But the word is, 2 days ago you said they weren't that busy at the stores, but we were talking to you yesterday. You were saying that a lot of stuff was cleaned out yesterday. What have you been seeing in way of preparation there on the central coast of Florida?
Well, luckily, we don't have the crazy lines and the rushing and the fighting. My friend did tell me that he witnessed some actual fist fighting in the Home Depot yesterday. But, here, because we know it's not really going to impact us here necessarily, there isn't any panicking going on. But yes, as soon as they get the shelves stocked, it's empty. You can't get water. You can't get these storable foods. The only canned foods that are left are like the chicken broth and the broth soups. Everything's gone. And as soon as they get these shelves stocked, they're gone. And there's no gas anywhere. People are lined up around the block to get gas. Then by the time they finally are able to get to the gas pump, there's no gas there. And so that's why I haven't even really been driving around that much. I'm sort of afraid to head east come Monday because there's not going to be any gas to get back. So it's a really incredible.
You just hit it. They're telling everybody to evacuate in the south, and now they're in the central coast where you're at and all up the east coast. But then there's no gas. The roads are clogged. There's no hotels. It's just bedlam, and it shows how precarious this industrial society is. I'm not criticizing it, but this just-on-time delivery, this system is a time bomb.
Right. And I mean, that's just the importance of being prepared, because pretty much everyone here in Florida, you'll have your hurricane supplies. I've got my supply closet. But even with me, I was rotating out my water. But you can't do that because as I was rotating out my water, it just so happened that very day, all the water ran out. And so when I went to go refill my hurricane supplies, there wasn't any water. And I had to wait 2 days. I had to get up at 6 in the morning so I could be one of the first people at the store to get the water. So when you have your storable foods and your storable emergency supplies, you really have to keep those and maintain them for the duration of whatever season it is that you're hoping to weather, whatever storm you're hoping to weather. Because you just never know. You never know when, I'll go ahead and use the gas and then I'll go get some more, refill my supplies for the next storm. But when you go to resupply, it might not be there. So it's just really incredible to see how quickly the panic takes over, how quickly the stores empty out their shelves. I mean, we had reports that they were having to have the National Guard protect the gas trucks that were just trying to bring in gas. People are, it's just really fragile. It's just interesting to see how fragile this society is, how quickly
Well,
things
Leanne,
can
you know,
turn.
the InfoWars crowd and the crew and myself all love you. So be safe. I'm going to let you get out of here now. I didn't know that as we were talking to you that they were beating on your door saying, get out of there. So go take care of your grandma. I know that's why you've moved there for the time being. Come back to visit us soon and take care of your grandmother who just had a successful surgery. So you're a good granddaughter, and be safe. But it is like Russian roulette. You've got it coming in and up, and we don't know if it's going to go your direction, right up the state to the east. What's your gut tell you, Leanne? I mean, because they don't know. The storm tracks show that it could go basically anywhere up the state.
Well, Alex, you know, I'm not really one to panic. I don't think that's a very helpful reaction in a catastrophe situation, but I'm really scared about this storm, and everyone I've talked to is really worried about it. I don't want to cry, but it's going to go up the entire state of Florida, and either way, there's definitely going to be a lot of flooding, a lot of storm surge, and I'm just really concerned about my family there on the East Coast and my friends and people who've chosen to kind of hunker down, weather the storm. This is going to be one of the biggest we've ever seen.
Well, as long as you can, get those, after you're done taking care of your grandma and getting them, you know, in shelter, be sure and keep tweeting out at Leanne McAdoo on Twitter and shooting those videos to give us updates. We're praying for you, everybody in Florida and in the path of the storm there in the Caribbean. Thank you, Leanne McAdoo.
Thank you.
Now, I promise we're going boom, 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 Carlos and others. When we come back on the other side of this quick break, I'm Alex Jones. We'll have live coverage all day Sunday.
In ancient times, man roamed the earth in a constant state of hunting or being hunted. Introducing Caveman, where cutting-edge science meets ancient super nutrients. Secure your bottle right now at InfoWarsStore.com.